taking a peek at the Sync 4 infotainment system inside of the Ford Maverick. This is for the 2025 Plus models. If you're in one of the previous gen versions, so the Sync 3 or the regular Sync systems, check down in the description of this video for a walkthrough on that older system instead. But let's dive in and I'll show you what you need to know. Along the top side, you've got your home icon. So if you're on any screen outside of the home screen, push there to get back home. You can tap your clock there in order to adjust your clock settings. Along the top right side, it's your current connection level, and then the outside temperature. You've got your media, if your phone is connected, settings, apps, and then all of your climate control settings are now baked right into the screen. So I know some people aren't crazy about that idea, but one nice thing is that you can hit the voice command prompt on the steering wheel if you wanted to be able to set your temperature and a number of other things. So while you don't have the physical tactile buttons anymore, the majority of things can be controlled using your voice. There's the option for heated first row seats inside of most trim levels of the ride, along with a heated steering wheel. You could adjust all of your climate control settings here. Do you want to go into windshield face feet, turn on your heated side view mirrors, and then you've also got the flexibility of adjusting out your fan speed along the bottom right side. So let's dive in and I'll take you line by line here, starting off with your media. So media, you've got sources, so AM, FM, SiriusXM, and Bluetooth. If you had a USB stick with some MP3s on there, you could plug yourself in down the center stack there, and that's just going to take a second. There we go. USB audio is available too. Look at that. You can browse your USB stick. Now, one thing, so this stick does have, there we go, MP4 and AVI files. So these are video format files. You can listen to the audio for video files, but you just can't actually watch video through this screen. So it doesn't have support for video playback using USB audio. Moving out to AM, so whether you're AM, FM, SiriusXM, you can see all of your presets along the bottom there are a mix of all of the above. If you wanted to set your own preset, just tune to whatever station you want to, so you can tune a few different ways. You can tune this way. If you wanted to do it that way, you could. When you've tuned to the station, you're just going to push and hold in order to overwrite. So you can't delete presets, which is odd. You can just overwrite them. If you move into sound settings, that's going to give you a few other options. But before we get there, you can also seek out stations this way. You can do a fine tune this way or voice command prompt. 97.7 FM.
Tuning to FM 97.7.
You can also use your voice in order to tune out stations. So that's one nice thing about the system is that you can control the majority of things using your voice. Now from there, if you hop into SiriusXM, that gives you a few other options. So you can play pause because we're looking at live radio. You could change between stations this way if you'd like to. You can start the song over. And then if you're a big fan of either the song or the artist, if you hit this little bell icon, that's going to bring you to this screen. Then you can make a notification for either the artist or the song. So when that artist or song comes onto any SiriusXM station, you'd get a notification giving you a heads up. You can go into some advanced audio settings this way, and then some finer settings this way for SiriusXM. So you've got all of your advanced settings. Let's see, block explicit content, tune to start, nothing overly exciting except for preset pages. So at a very minimum, you can have one, but you can also do up to 5 individual preset pages here. And that is a mix of, as I mentioned, AM, FM, SiriusXM. It's so ridiculous. Now from here, along the outside, you've got a little split screen. So there's not too much flexibility here. You can switch to your trip 1, trip 2 counters, but you can also see all of that information inside of the cluster screen. Then on the steering wheel, you've got a few other buttons here. So you can change between your songs or stations this way. You could also do a push and hold either way if you wanted it to seek out to different stations. You've got to be pretty quick on the draw though. So your best bet is just to use the voice command prompt. You can adjust your volume this way. You could mute out your audio. And then down the middle, you can adjust your volume or push in the middle in order to toggle your audio off. And next up, we're going to add in a phone.
Search for your vehicle on your device and select it once it is found.
Starting off on the iPhone side of things, all we're going to do is look for Ford Maverick to pop up.
Confirm that the pin displayed on Sync matches the pin displayed on your device.
Pins match up, so you can hit don't allow. Well, I'm going to say don't allow because this is not my car. If it was yours, you could say yes. And you can stop here.
Please stay alert to changing road conditions and use Sync's voice-activated features while your vehicle is in motion.
Oh, I thank you. I do recommend turning on 911 assist because if you're in a serious accident, the vehicle can automatically dial 911. So it finished there. And like I said, you can stop here. So you can connect over Bluetooth for phone calls and for streaming audio, but you've also got Apple CarPlay support. That is wireless inside of the ride. It is backwards compatible, so you could use either a USB-A or a USB-C cable. If you're using a USB-A cable, just make sure it's got the data transfer icon there. So it has to be data transfer. But if you can't even get to this point, or if you're running into CarPlay issues, check down in the description of this video for a little walkthrough on how you can look at some CarPlay fixes. But from here, all we're gonna do, tap Use CarPlay. Look at this. Let's enable that projection. And it should just take a second there. Boom. Look at this. And we are fully connected to Apple CarPlay. Now you've got this little split screen, but on the outside, you see these little arrows. If you tap that, look at that. Full screen Apple CarPlay support. I love it. You've got your current, time, battery, and connection levels. These are the apps that were open last. So your map application, your audio application, and then miscellaneous. So these are going to be dynamic depending on what you've opened up last. From here, you've got Apple Maps, Google Maps, and Waze support, with Waze being my favorite map application. There's no pinch to zoom. You have to zoom in and out this way. But one thing I love about Waze is that if there's accidents, construction, if there are police pulling people over, so if there are speed traps, things like that, people are pretty good at marking that off. You can mark things off yourself. So if you notice that there's police pulling people over, if there's crashes, hazards, etc., you can give people a heads up. You can hit the little button here in order to get to your icon view, back to this home screen. So you've got the map that was open, search, and then your media that was currently playing. Media, you've got podcasts that are available. So if you're a big podcast listener, swiping across, you've got Hoopla, which is a library app. Live One is a radio app. There's YouTube Music on top of that. But CarPlay still doesn't have support for video playback. That's one thing I'd love to see, especially when you're stationary. You can kind of customize this screen. So if you tap on the settings icon, you can put yourself into driving focus, but you can also change out your wallpaper. So if there's a color scheme that works better for you and for what you love, look at that. Bright, beautiful, and blue. I love it. But you've got that flexibility of adjusting it out a little bit. Then you can also change out the icon layout. So on your phone, if you go into your settings, general, and then CarPlay, you're just going to find your vehicle. You can forget it, or you can customize the launcher. So let's say if you wanted to have your podcast near the top and a certain map application, along the top there, you're just hitting the hamburger icon and dragging them around, and that's going to let you adjust out the layout. Anything with a minus next to it, you can also remove it from the screen. So if there are certain apps you're never going to use, you can remove it, but it saves it at the bottom. So you could add them back in if you'd like to, but if you've played around with the layout too much and you really don't like what you've done, along the top right side of the phone, there's a reset button. So you're just going to tap reset, and that's just going to bring you back to that default layout screen there. Now, if you do a light push on the voice command prompt on the steering wheel, that's going to bring you into the assistant for the vehicle. But if you do a long button push and hold, that is going to bring up your Siri assistant. So short button push is going to be the factory assistant. Long button push is going to be the assistant for your vehicle. If you hop back home, you can then tap in order to get back into CarPlay. Back home again, there's a little CarPlay icon there. You can also tap. And then if we hop back to the main home screen, if you hop into settings, you've got your phone list. I'm currently connected to the iPhone for CarPlay. I can then disconnect. So if I just wanted to be able to make phone calls or stream audio and not be connected to CarPlay, you can do that. But that's how you set up Apple devices inside of the Sync 4 screen in the Maverick. Setting up Android devices is the exact same process. So if you weren't on this screen, all you're going to do, well, if you didn't have a phone connected, you could just tap there, or you're going to hit settings, back to your phone list, and then just add a phone.
Search for your vehicle on your device and select it once it is found.
From here, you're just waiting for Ford Maverick to show up.
Confirm that the pin displayed on Sync matches the pin displayed on your device.
Pins match up. And do you want to allow access
For
to
your
contacts,
safety,
messages?
please stay
No.
alert to changing road conditions and use Sync's voice-activated features while your vehicle is in motion.
And same thing that we saw on the Apple side of things. So Android devices are also wireless Android Auto. You can also use a USB cable if you'd like to, but let's just go ahead and enable. Look at that. On the device, welcome to Android Auto. So you're just going to tap continue. And 3, 2, 1, we are fully connected. Love it. You've got the same little split screen that we saw earlier. On the top right side though, if you tap these little arrows, that is going to bring you into a full screen Android Auto. I love it. So you can see here, you've got your current connection and your battery level. You've got a few miscellaneous applications, your voice assistants. You can tap your assistant that way to get to it, or do a long button push and hold on the steering wheel in order to activate your assistant that way. You've got Google Maps inside of the device along with Waze. So if you've got Waze installed on your Android though, and it's not showing up, check down in the description of this video for a little walkthrough on how you can add it in. It's pretty straightforward. Hopping back brings you back to this little split screen, but you could also go full screen maps rather than this split screen. So if you tap the map icon, look at that, full screen. But one thing I love about Android Auto, full pinch to zoom capabilities. Beautiful, love it. From here, you can tap this to get back to that screen, back to this little icon view. You can't really customize the screen layout much. You can change around the icons because if you go into your device, you're gonna search for Android Auto, just tap on Android Auto settings. From there, a bunch of options. If you hit Customize Launcher, that's going to bring you up to this screen. Anything with a check mark next to it, you could technically remove it from the screen, but I'm just going to add everything in there. And then you could also do a drag and drop in order to be able to customize the layout. Now, it's not dynamic, though, the same way it is on the iPhone side. So in order for these changes to come into effect, pop back home. You're going to go to your settings, phone list. You're going to disconnect from Android Auto. You're going to reconnect to Android Auto. Then, if we hop into the icon tray, you can see there the changes that we made have now come into effect. So it's straightforward. Now, one neat thing is that it's the same thing that we saw on the iPhone side. You can tap here or there to get back into Android Auto. But if you go back to your settings for a second here, so we go Settings, Phone List, you can be connected to either Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, not both, but you can do a mix and match. So let's say if you wanted to be hooked up to the Galaxy or an Android device or an Apple device, if you had multiple phones connected, one for phone calls, one for media. So it's either Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, not both, but you can do a mix and match of these four. If you tap phone settings, you could hit this little icon in order to look at some additional options. Tapping back and then delete is going to let you delete devices. And let's reconnect to the iPhone for a second here because I want to show you one more thing. Same idea. You can tap here on the iPhone to set a few different things, or tap back, delete, and yes. And that's going to delete the iPhone from the vehicle too. But that's how you set up Android and iPhone devices inside of this ride. Hopping back home, that's the basics here. Now, if you did have factory navigation, it's what's known as connected navigation. So you'd have 1 year of navigation services. You do have to activate it through the Ford Pass app on your phone. If you want to know how to set that Ford Pass app up, check down in the description of this video, but you have, like I said, 1 year of connected service. So after the year is up, the navigation system essentially stays there, but it's a dead moving map that just follows you around. So you wouldn't be able to add in a destination, but that's where connecting your phone and going through CarPlay or Android Auto would come into play. But let's dive into some advanced settings. So starting off with settings here, you've got radio. So you've got your radio text or your available preset pages. And this button is dynamic depending on whether you're on your radio, so AM, FM, or SiriusXM. You can add in a phone and look at all of your sound settings now. So you can adjust out your tone settings, so treble, mid-range, and bass. What I'd recommend here is play one of your favorite songs. And while that song is playing, adjust it out until it sounds perfect for your ears. What I've found historically in the Maverick is that the treble up a point or two, mid-range at middle, and then bass cranked a few points sounds good to me, but that's going to come down to a matter of preference. You can adjust the balance and fade, so you do want it driver focused, rear focused, front focused, etc. Back to the middle and back out. Speed compensated volume, as you're going faster or slower, it can increase or decrease the volume for you. There are some basic vehicle settings, so you can idle for 30 minutes max. Rear occupant alert, when you go to turn the vehicle off, do you want to get alerts, yay or nay? You could turn it off completely, and then also notification whether a child seat's been installed in the back. Benefit there, you turn the truck off and it's going to let you know to check the back seats. So you've got your serial number, remote starts available there too, so you can remote start through the fob. You can also remote start through the Ford Pass app, but when you remote start, what do you want to have happen? Do you want the vehicle to determine the climate, or is it based off of the last settings you had for the vehicle? Your heated seats and steering wheel, do you want the vehicle to determine whether or not those should come on? And then how long do you want your remote start to last? So 5, 10, or 15 minutes? And back again, the basics for wipers, so courtesy wipe. With that one turned on, if you go to use your windshield wiper fluid, what's going to happen is after the last wipe, it's going to go one more time at the end in order to make sure that all the excess liquid is cleared away. Basics for lighting, auto high beam is available here. And the big benefit of the auto high beam, you want to make sure that this one's turned on, because with the high beams in general, so when you're in the auto lamp mode here, your high beams can't be permanently locked on. So what happens here is that if the vehicle recognizes that your high beams are needed, it turns them on automatically. If somebody's oncoming, it turns them off before turning them right back on again. But if you want to permanently lock your high beams out, you're just going to go into the headlamp mode. From there, you can push away to turn your high beams on, pull towards you in order to turn them off. But you're going to be in the auto mode, and I do recommend keeping those auto high beams turned on the majority of the time. Lamp delay, when you go to lock the vehicle, how long do the lights stay on for? And then basics for locks. Do you want the doors to automatically unlock when you turn off? The other one here, audible. When you go to lock the truck, do you want to get feedback letting you know that you've actually locked the truck? And then your remote unlock. So when you unlock using the fob, do all doors become unlocked or strictly the driver's door? So you can change that up based off of your own personal preference for safety. And then intelligent access. So there's a little hamburger icon along the driver's side door. So you can tap that in order to be able to lock the door or slide your hand in to unlock. Your clock, which you can get to through your settings down there, or tapping the clock along the top. You can change it out to either AM or PM. Do you prefer military time, like the 24-hour mode? You can have the auto time update for you, which I definitely recommend turning on. The only time you might want to turn that off is if you straddle a time zone and it's constantly flipping you from one time zone to the next. There are some general settings. So you've got the option of adjusting your language, so English, French, or Spanish. You can change out your temperature units. So do you want to be in, hold on, if we turn this on for a second here and drop it down, Celsius or Fahrenheit. And back, measurement units. So you can either go miles or kilometers. If you change that out, it's going to change out what's going on in the bottom of the cluster screen there. So you can see there whether you're in miles, kilometers, etc. And back, your tire pressure unit, do you want to be in PSI, kPa, or bar? The touchscreen beep that we're getting. If you want to toggle that off, you could. And then you can also do a reset for two things. So reset Ford Pass. So if the Ford Pass app on your phone is giving you problems, you can do a Ford Pass reset, or you could do a full factory reset, which is going to wipe the screen and get rid of everything. But if you're running into issues like Android Auto, Apple CarPlay aren't working, the screen's frozen out on you, there is a way to do a soft reboot that I'll show you towards the end of the video. That's the basics of general. Next up is display. So your display, you've got the option of going to a calming screen. You can toggle that off. Now, there is also the option of going to a calming screen down the center stack here. So you've got a series of buttons. So your volume rocker, you can change between songs or stations, but you can hit this little guy. And that's going to bring you into your calming screen. You could adjust the brightness of the screen out if you'd like to, so brighter, darker, etc. And then there are mode options. So this is the daytime mode. You can permanently lock it out to the day or the nighttime if you'd like to. But when you're in the auto mode, it's automatically going to flip you between the day or the nighttime, just depending on how bright it is outside. I personally love the night mode, but it's a matter of preference whether you go one way or the other. There are some connectivity options, connected vehicle features, so you can share analytics and things like that with Ford, yay or nay. Definitely recommend keeping those off. You can also turn off telematics. Bluetooth is where you're going to toggle Bluetooth off completely or changing the vehicle name. So if you don't like it to be Ford Maverick, if you want it to be Mustang Sally, Bob's Ride, whatever the case may be, you can adjust it out. Let's see, wireless app projection, you can see your basics there, nothing exciting. Wi-Fi, so if you wanted to connect to a Wi-Fi network at home, you'd have that flexibility. And from here, vehicle hotspot. So the vehicle does have a built-in modem. You do need to have an active data plan through that Ford Pass app in order to be able to use this info, but you'd be able to use it as a wireless hotspot. So rather than running off of the data on your phone, you can connect to the vehicle. Mobile apps, I've never found that the mobile apps are useful. What I'd recommend there is just go use Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. Software updates are available. One thing that I'd recommend with the updates, keep automatic on, but turn on a schedule so that it's later on at night. So when you know the truck's going to be parked, because with over-the-air updates, it might take 3, 4, 5 hours to download and install the update. So you just want to make sure you do that at home. Then Ford Assistant. Now on the steering wheel, you've got your voice command prompt. If you tap that, that's going to bring up this list, but you can also have it listen for a wake word. and you can choose whatever wake word. So rather than hitting that prompt, you could say, okay, Ford, and it's going to bring up the voice command prompt for you. From there, you can have your advanced mode. I recommend keeping advanced mode turned on, and you might not want the command list, but your phone confirmation, do you want to call such and such person, yay, nay, and then your command list is this list that pops up. When you turn advanced mode on, what that's going to do is, let's say if you change stations, 94.9 FM, it just does it. So it doesn't give you the feedback that it's doing it, it just does things. And then you've got your command help. What I'd recommend is when you first get your vehicle, go through the command help to see what you can do, because there are a bunch of different things that you can do. So for your media, phone, etc. Into 911 assist, recommend make sure you connect your phone to the vehicle, because if you're in a serious accident, it can dial 911 for you. And then there's valet mode. So you can enter in a 4-digit PIN. Don't use 0000, use something difficult. But what it's going to do is it's going to lock out everything except for climate control. So you can make sure that people can't look through the screen until they enter that 4-digit number again. And that's, well, the basics. That's everything you need to know about that element of settings. Next up, you've got your features. Driving assistance is going to be one, or driver assistance settings. Lane keeping system works 3 different ways, and that's based off of toggling the system on or off using the button on the left-hand side of the steering wheel. So you can see there that the system is now enabled. So, way number 1, if you start to veer over into a lane without signaling, it can either nudge you back into your lane. That's the aid. You can get an alert, so a little steering wheel vibration, almost like you're running over rumble pavement, or the alert and the aid will do both. So you start veering over into a lane without signaling, it'll give you a little vibration, nudge you back into your lane. But you can toggle that system off. And then there's the intensity of the steering wheel shake. It's a pre-collision assist, so if the vehicle is going to potentially get into a collision, it can automatically brake for you. The evasive steering puts it into more like a hypersensitivity mode to help you get out of the way of a potential collision a little bit easier. Rear view camera delay, if you've got your camera going, and then you go to start driving, it's going to keep that camera going at low speeds for a few seconds. And then driver alert. So if you start to veer over too many times without signaling, eventually it's going to tell you that you should probably take a break. There are some basics for towing, nothing exciting there. And then your owner's manual. So if this vehicle didn't help out, or you need to know things like when to change your oil if you're doing it yourself, fuel economy, things like that, you can search the digital owner's manual. And this is going to give you all the information that you might need. So there's a visual search, bookmarks and videos and things like that. So you can see if you're getting weird messages inside of the cluster screen, etc., you can look through to see what's potentially available. There are some apps available here. You can find apps. There's Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, and YouTube. But the downside is that you do need to have an active data plan for this to work. So typically you're going to have 1 year of connected services, but there are monthly, yearly plans available. So if you wanted to watch YouTube, if you had factory navigation available, etc., you'd have that flexibility. So YouTube is the only video app that's playable, but you still have video playback support. And down the middle here, you've got your volume rocker, change between song stations, your calming mode, 4-way blinkers, defroster, and then the auto hold setting. So with the auto hold setting enabled, if you're in drive, you come down to a complete stop, take your foot off the brake, the truck is not going to move. So there, your push button start. There's a 12-volt power point, USB Type-C and a USB Type-A charge port and a data transfer port. There's the option for a wireless charge pad. You've got your rotary dial shifter, parking brake. You're going to pull up in order to turn the parking brake on. You're going to hit the brake, push down in order to turn it off. From there, you've got your traction control on-off, and then that auto start-stop system. So that's the one where you come down to a complete stop, the engine might turn off. And then, if the screen's giving you problems, like let's say Apple CarPlay's not working, Android Auto's not working, or there are other screen issues that you're getting, you do have the option, as you saw earlier, of doing a full factory reset. But that's going to get rid of everything on the screen. So it'll get rid of your presets, phones that you've connected, etc. You could also do a soft reboot. In order to do it, you're using a few different buttons along the steering wheel. So you're going to hit the volume down button and the right seek button. So the buttons on the left side and the far right side of the bottom of the steering wheel. You're going to push and hold those for about 10 seconds, and then eventually you're going to see the screen going nuts, but it'll power off, and then it's entered a soft reboot cycle. So what it's doing is it's essentially clearing the cache. It would be very similar to you doing a reboot on your cell phone. And after a few seconds, it's going to relaunch and you're set to go. I know that that is a lot of information though, but that's everything that you need to know about the infotainment system inside of the Ford Maverick.